Welcome to another edition of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and friends. This show was originally created from the more than 300 motivational quotes I had created for the contents of my books. With more than 40 years of studying human behavior, I was always curious. Were there just words that just landed on a page, or were there a conversation to be had? And so, believe it or not, I got together with a couple of my good friends. My name is Kevin Mclemore. I'm the show host. I got Victoria, I got Gilda and Christopher James. I've also have Mazan, Marnez, Adina, Curtis Paddles, Lois Campbell, and all the way from the West Coast over here, we've got Tara Elizabeth. And coming up the rear is Dr. Breakthrough, Stan Harris. So we meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And someone brings in a quote. We talk about our interpretation and perspective on this quote. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes we get deep. Sometimes we just get silly on here. So hopefully you enjoy the show. So with that said, Otis, if you don't mind, before Mizan talks about what inspired her to bring this quote, can you deliver for our fans the quote of the day?
Grand Rising all, happy Sunday. Today's quote: great things are done by a series of small things brought together, by Vincent van Gogh. And Mazan.
All right, Mazan, how does this quote by Vincent van Gogh motivate you? How do you attach this quote?
Well, the reason I brought this quote in, Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite artists, and he painted one of my favorite paintings, Starry Night. I'm wearing his design. Uh, his technique, I relate to life. In his painting, he's done a series of short, small, circular strokes. If you ever look at the painting, you'll see even around the moon, you'll see small little strokes. His little strokes created this amazing masterpiece. And it is little tiny, tiny strokes if you look at it. And for me, that relates to life. And this has been my quote, my signature for a while. In life, you cannot rush into anything, just with everything I've been doing. I feel like from a teenager, I've always been not meticulous, but I took tiny steps on reaching wherever I want to go. Not physically, it's mentally. And I plan. I am a planner, so I do plan, but it is a matter of doing things and not expecting great returns right away. So as simple as the foundation I'm trying to do in Africa, I know I've been working on this for about 2.5, going to 3 years. It's small steps. I do little steps. Eventually, I know, with continuous hope. That's the main thing with doing the small steps. You just can't give up. In the little steps, I know I will eventually get to having the organization and be able to teach much better and be able to go there. So in life, it's the same way. We take little tiny steps to reach bigger goals. If we rush into something and we're rushing, and we all have aspiration, but we rush into doing what we want and what we're hoping, you may be disappointed because you may crash and burn. And it's better to achieve little victories and smaller goals to get where you are going. So that's my take on Vincent van Gogh's amazing quote. And thank you for having me here.
No, we thank you for coming. I was not aware that Vincent van Gogh, as a artist, created his work in small, tiny steps. We all remember that the love of his life cost him an ear on there, and I guess that was a mighty big step in his commitment to his emotional connection. But his artwork stands the test of time. And Starry Night is one of the most beautiful paintings that you can see. And thank you for bringing that quote. So, the one thing about, when you talk about breakthroughs, how the ground shakes and how people just set up, I'm going to ask Dr. Stan Harris, Dr. Breakthrough, how does Vincent van Gogh's quote land on you?
Awesome. Well, breakthrough, grand rising to each and every one of you. The quote, first of all, thank you, our sister. That was absolutely amazing, and that's powerful. So with me, it's like the scripture says, day by day, they're gathered unto David. So David anointed king and was actually being pushed aside. And but he stayed true to his calling. And then day by day, people would gather to David. And of course, Saul was the king at the time, and he was totally jealous of David and tried to kill him. And so David just maintained, again, not this big burst, but just day by day, different people, different soldiers gathered with David until eventually he built the world's strongest army. As a matter of fact, the scripture in 1 Samuel 22:2, it says something like this: everyone that was in distress and everyone that was in debt and everyone that was discontented came unto him. So he took a bunch of misfits and built the world's strongest army just day by day, just a little small steps. But as the quote says, it ended up being a very big thing. And that's the same thing with a breakthrough. I tell people breakthroughs are both gradual and sudden. And as you mentioned, that rocket ship, when it first takes off, there's all kind of combustion, all kind of energy, but it's moving super slow, or we would say very small movements, very small progress. But as it continues on and just stays faithful and just keeps on, eventually that rocket ship gets to the place where it's traveling 25,000 miles per hour. And so oftentimes, again, we're looking, as you said, for these big things, when oftentimes just faithfully doing the small things, the day by day, that'll create it. And so I say in one of my books as I close, instead of trying to build and make a lot of money in business, if you would create, there's one M that if you create it, you don't have to worry about the money. And that is the word momentum. And momentum is created by doing the small things, the grind, the daily grind, day after day after day. And then when momentum hits, you can't turn things off. So I started a business years ago, and we got the momentum going with a home-based business where it blossomed to 1.5 million members. But in one day, we had 100,000 people join in one day. It shut the servers down. It was too much. We had to rebuild it. But the key was the momentum, day by day, just when it felt like it, when it didn't feel like it, when it seemed like it wasn't working. But again, you got to have that hope, that belief that one day it will come to pass. That little acorn will one day be an oak tree. God bless you.
And that is the key to anything in life, is being prepared for that one day. I appreciate your share, Dr. Breakthrough. And for those of you that have not read his book, it's an amazing book. And I would encourage everyone before your time has ended to write your story, to leave something behind so someone else can go ahead and repeat your words on a show like this. And so when I go to, my sister from the island, Miss Lois Campbell, and ask her how this quote lands on her. Lois, this quote from Vincent van Gogh, how does this quote land on you? Look at that big old smile.
Hello from the islands of Jamaica. And I grew up with this quote. So I'm going to say it in Jamaican patois. One cocoa full basket. One cocoa full basket. I know a lot of you can understand it. So it means one cocoa or fruit or whatever it is each day puts into a basket, and the basket becomes full. So you just don't go when you go to the market or wherever and pick up a full basket. It didn't just get there full like that. It was a process. So the same thing in life, or with me personally as a nurse, it wasn't easy, but I knew my end goal, what I wanted. So there are steps that you have to do. If it's your GED before, if it's your high school diploma, if it's different courses, before you get to that RN license, it's a process. So it's one day, and then it becomes the day when I finally took the boards, which also was a challenge. And then 6 weeks later, I picked up a big envelope, because then you said a small envelope you fail, a big envelope you pass. The delight that was on my face, but it didn't come overnight. It came with a lot of work, hard work, dedication, sleepless nights, and many other things that before I got to my goal. So yeah, Van Gogh was right. Small steps, then you get a to a big step when you get to your final goal. And even then, maybe you still have to do more, but it's a process. Thank you.
And it's amazing. If I were to look at each and every person on this podcast and use your analogy of a cocoa in a basket, for those of you that are tuning into the show, we have so many amazing entrepreneurs on this show. Every single person is successful in their own space. And when I turn over to Victoria, we'll talk a little bit about her foundation. Now this quote lands on her. But these are all highly intelligent people. These are all people that are giving back to their community, that had great ideas. And these great ideas are turning into big experiences for many other people. When we talk about delayed gratification, these people have toiled the soil every single day in order to do what they do right now. We have a podcaster that's killing it on here. I'll talk about Anne-Marie at some point. But I'm going to ask Otis before we ask Victoria to give us his share. Otis, if you don't mind repeating the quote for some of our listeners that just tuned in.
Great things are done by a series of small things brought together.
And Victoria Martino, she is the voice of the National Voice Foundation. She is an amazing person. Just like Lazan has started a foundation, not only for here, for our young people abroad. Victoria, how does this quote from Vincent van Gogh land on you?
Kevin, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast, Kevin and Friends. It's really honored to be here. And in regards to your question, I think already a few speakers shared a lot. I don't want to repeat myself of this because I think this is the major steps, and the steps is already were discussed here. But when you go through, I think what these are small steps, how they really showing up in your life. It's when you're facing a through very, very hard time, or you're going to divorce, or you got fired from the job, and you have no money, no support from the people, and you just by yourself. So, and I think when you by yourself and facing the hardest challenges in your life, that's how you taking those small steps, because you have nothing to do. I mean, if your life was ruining enough, so this is the first steps. That small steps was really helps. But we discussed about that, how it's helpful that we need to work hard, sleep less. Yes, I'm also mother, and I miss my child time. I missed some time of some of them maybe holidays, because I'm working on this foundation, and I know what I'm working on this foundation. But the biggest recommendation to the people who is facing a hard time at this moment is to go to the store. No, you don't have to even go to the store. You have to have a pencil and paper, and you have to sit down, and you have to be, I know from the beginning, you're not going to do this, you're going to force yourself, but you have to force yourself to write, because those small steps, because if you don't write them and you still keep it in your head, that will be in your head. It's like a book. You wrote the book. You can keep it in your head and just discuss the Kevin and Friends, but you wrote the book to deliver it, actually. So my advice to those people who is facing hard time is sit down and force yourself from the beginning to write. Like I showed you before our podcast, I showed you my notebook, the journal, $2, but it brings me big ideas. So yes, and for example, let's say like I write the next day, let's say March 18, what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to email this. All those, yes, small steps make a bigger impact. So this is, I think, I would like to recommend everyone and everybody who is facing the hard time, or either divorce, or somebody died, or you lose the job. You have to take that step. A very small step is to sit down, and not just like you sit down and like, okay, what I'm going to create. No, your first step has to do is find yourself. So you have to work on yourself. Like, what is my passion? Where I'm going? Who I want to be? What is my talent? So this is actually the first small step can bring you to the biggest ideas and the biggest goals in your life.
That was a very powerful share, very powerful share, Victoria.
Thank
And
you so much.
it is true. Life does happen, and many times for many of us,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not immune to this. You wake up and you have to face tough times. You have more questions than answers. But believe it or not, just like every storm comes in, there's going to be a sunny day that will follow. You have to live for those sunny days. You have to live for those opportunities. And believe it or not, when you write something down like you did in your journal, the first step of that becoming reality is that you have to introduce it to the world. And for those of you that have not acquired the talent for journaling, it's never too late. We all have a story to tell. No one's guaranteed tomorrow. No one's guaranteed the next 60 seconds. But if you write something down and you put it onto the world, all right, that conversation lives forever. In the same way that we're repeating a quote by Vincent van Gogh, his life, his energy, and Larness will say this, we're all energy, will never die. So Curtis Battles, a very wise man, and I want to thank you for your share this morning. I'm working on a small step to make a big dream come true, and Curtis, and that's the other thing is sometimes you have to bring other people into your dreams to walk with you. All right, we cannot do this thing that we call life alone. All right, there's no one that's man-made. We're made because of the company that we keep. So Curtis Battles, how does this quote land on you?
Happy Sunday to all. It is a joy, as always, to see all the smiling faces that light up my day. So, I have the Grand Canyon behind me as an example of what is the big dream? What is the big vision? But if you think about it, it was the small step of the water slowly inching away, eating down to create that canyon. So the over however many eons, decades, generations it took to get to the beautiful place it is today, it was a series of the small rivers running through so we have this beautiful place today. And I think about that as I look to be a visionary for as a businessman, because you have this big idea, you want to share it with the world, but it's what's the very next thing do I need to do today in order to help move that forward? And there are days when you feel like I can talk to everybody and it's going to be great and I'm fired up. And there are other days when it's I have a non-facing client day where I just need to get stuff done, put my head down, sit at the computer, come up with a spreadsheet, do all those things. But it's that balance. You have to be able to balance being the visionary because great ideas are wonderful, but if you don't actually take that first small step to get it to along its pathway, it just sits there. And so I want to just encourage everybody, wherever they are in their journey, that just think about what's the next thing I need to do to continue to make that difference for the world. And that is how this quote landed on me.
And it landed in a very safe space. And I appreciate your share before we go to Adina. It's amazing. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, one thing about having a dream, you do have to avoid the dream stealers. There are people in your life that are close to you. There are people that work with you and whatever. And sometimes you need to know who to share your dream with. There are some people that just wake up every single day and they exist. And there are other people that wake up every single day and they celebrate life because they have purpose. So avoid the dream stealers and take one step at a time. To get 10,000 steps, you have to put your right foot in front of the left foot. If you only have one foot, hop to the next space, hop to the next one, hop to keep stepping.
But
Adina,
may I ask you a question, Kevin? If I can interrupt you a little bit here.
it's too late. You've
Uh,
already done it.
you said like avoid, yes, but we people are different. Yeah, I mean, I myself like this. I have to done something. Yes, I have to build this, and then I can share the idea. Yeah, they're like here, I shared it. But what I see so far, even if I share here and there, some people never would do that. Like they like, oh yeah, that's nice idea. Yes, 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 but they have no power really to like steal all of your idea because we are different people and you think on your idea it's very differently. You see the way the strategy because we are sharing the idea. Yes, like here I have foundation, Nation Voice Foundation. We're helping students, youngest generation, but yes, he can like, oh, this is good idea. Let me go and work on that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
but those person doesn't know your strategy. So I think also you're right about this that we can share with everybody. But also I would also recommend not to share your strategy. You can share your kind of a little bit what are you doing, but not a strategy. So this
Well,
is the most important, I think.
yeah, what I want to do is clarify when I say dream stealers. Dream stealers are those people that when you have a great idea, they seem to throw shade on it. They talk negative about you. They said you're never going to succeed and those things. That's what I
But
mean by
this is what that gives you power, Kevin. This is what they exactly give you power. I like when people talk about me bad, like, oh, she can do nothing. She's not financial stable. She's not this. I like it. Then I go a step forward. Then people talk about me. So you can go and talk, but I'm gonna move it like we discussed this in the small steps. I'm not gonna pay attention to those people. It's good. Let them keep talking. Of course. So, but I will always be a step ahead.
Yep,
So,
you are another version of Vincent van Gogh. But sometimes people run into people and they think they have a great idea and they share it with someone that they trust. And what happens is, all of a sudden reality comes in. People said, well, it can't be done. Someone else has done it before and whatever. And I always look at the fact of the person that first manufactured a tire. Was Goodyear the first tire that ever put on the road? Well, Michelin has been very successful. Firestone has been very successful and whatever. Just because someone else has done it, create a space of your own. And that's what I said. And sometimes people get you off track of where you want to be. Because at that time, when we share our dreams, we're vulnerable. So Adina, I am going to ask you to do this. Matter of fact, if you rap and do this, I'll be fine with it too. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know I'll figure out some way to do it, but she threw down earlier in our pre-production chat. It was so cool to hear her rap and do her thing. She is also one of these people that she has started a foundation. She is giving back to her community. Um, I I'm going to tell you. My dream is the reality of this show. It started off with three people, and look at what happened. I've got so many wonderful people that are giving back. So, Adina, how does this quote by Vincent van Gogh land on you?
Well, the first thing it makes me think of is pregnancy. Um, we don't just become 9 months pregnant and pop a baby out. It's a process and it's gradual and it's every day, day by day. That's how we were all made and created in the womb. And there was a sequential process, and it is very consistent with every human being. What organ is made first, what organ is made second, and then, you know, the growth and And so that's what nature is. Nature is sequential, nature is gradual, nature is growth. So the first analogy I had was pregnancy, and the second one was um, growing the land, seeding the land with food, and what happens in the process there, and how a seed germinates. So the process of our creation here, our manifestations, if they follow in alignment with natural creation and the way we were all designed as humans, and the way the earth is meant to nourish us, then we're going in accordance with nature. It's a state of relaxation, relaxed productivity, patience, allowance, observation, cultivation, stewarding your projects, caring for them day by day. We live in a collective consciousness of push, rush, stress, pressure, energy, but that's not really in our natural alignment. If we take a step back and cultivate day by day while being in a state of allowance and balance and breath, right? Breathing in and out, mindfulness, then we will inevitably achieve our goals, because if we're following in our dharmic path, which is the path of our highest joy and love, we'll be supported. I put a podcast on yesterday and it was called "The Magical is the Practical." Uh, right? If we've been brainwashed to think that we need to be practical, which is against our magic and our joy, that's a bunch of BS. The magical is the most practical, and we will be inevitably supported when we follow along that path. So, my takeaway is the step by step approach really should give people a sense of peace and not rush. That's just part of a collective conditioning. So thank you.
Well, thank you for taking that quote to a whole another level. And I will say this. I can speak for most of the men on this panel. You know, I am so glad I didn't have to follow that. Because I will say this, and this is something we need to understand. We had Black History Month when we're Black 365 days a year. We've had Women's Month when you're a woman 365 days a year. I mean, for most of us, you guys are exceeding that, so that there's some extra days that we're not counting. A woman is probably the only true amazing gift that we have on this planet, because she's able to bring and reproduce life. And for those that may not appreciate the woman that's sitting next to you, that's your mom, your sister, your better half, your other half, the best half, or whatever, look at the woman sitting next to you or in front of you and give her roses, because you're sitting in front of greatness. Sitting in front of greatness. And so I'm going to turn this over to Tara. She's a mother of about 17 kids,
God, no.
three of them are her own. The others she's adopted and nurtured and whatever. How's this quote land on you, T?
It's interesting. Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite artists. I flew to Vienna to see the Kiss at the Belvedere Museum. That I remember studying him in junior high. And I was like, I am in love with this painting because I'm a hopeless romantic. But the quote itself, great things are done in a series of small things brought together, has resonated with me more as an adult. I retired at 45, so I am always looking for ways to entertain myself. And I take on new activities all the time. And sometimes I say, you know what, you're a little old, because I'm almost 40, to be skydiving or whatever I do. But one of the ways I get through all my interests is do it a little bit at a time, because I'm also a type A personality that needs to be very good at everything I do. I've always been pretty good at everything I've done in my life. If I set a goal, I've always hit it or exceeded it. But as you get older, physical goals take a little more out of you. When my father passed, I was looking for a way to be close to him. And my father was a runner, tennis player, golfer. I went to the golf course, found a golf coach. I said, I'm going to take up golf so I can be close to my dad. And I asked the coach, if I come every day, will I be able to hit that ball in the hole in the right number of strokes? And he laughed hysterically, tears rolling down. I was like, what's so funny? He said, there are people that play this game for 40, 50 years and can't do that. And I was like, oh, really? I said, okay, not my monkey, not my circus, because I knew I needed to be good at it. So I immediately went over to the tennis courts and I said, if I come every day, and they said, well, the way tennis works, you should. If you're coming consistently, you should get better unless you have two left feet. Well, here it is. I've been playing tennis now for 13 years and I have a pretty solid ranking, to the point of where I called my mother and said, why didn't she put me in tennis as a child? Because I would have been Venus and Serena before there was a Venus and Serena. But that is life. So I look at the quote as, you just start. You have to start somewhere, and you have to find that energy and motivation within yourself. Don't let naysayers or people tell you you can't do things. I have people all the time that tell me, I don't think you should start that project. And I'm like, I'm retired. I'm going to try it anyway. I'd rather try and fail than never try. So I look at everything in my life as a small series of events. And how do I grow and get better? How will I become a better person, better human, better mother, better friend, better lover? That's how the quote landed on me. Good morning.
Dedication and patience will always prevail. Badass tennis player. She's also a pickleball player also too. A little bit competitive. Um, one of our most successful podcasts under RMK Production happens to be with Anne Marie Maloney. She is killing it over there. She's also one of our educators on this podcast. We are so thankful for the gift that you have. If I've overlooked anyone else as an educator on here, I'm not taking anything away from you. Just happened to pop in my brain right now. Anne Marie, how does this quote land on you?
I begin with, who lied to you? Who lied to you? Who lied to us? Because we were told, when you look, especially when you look on social media, oh my goodness, the instantaneous fame. Oh my goodness, all you have to do is post some pictures, and you're wonderful. You are a star. You're the next wonderful R&B singer, or you're the next football star. You're the next mega coach, life coach, working on life stages. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is the image that our society puts forth. I can remember, as a personal experience as a student at Howard University, I was a transfer student. So I had spent 1 year at NYU, came to Howard, and while a student at Howard, I lost credits because of the transfer. And also, I changed my major. All of this to say, for the 2 years that I skipped in grade school, because I started college at 16, I ended up spending 5 years in college. And I remember that last year, and it's the case for many seniors who are in college, is they're like, when am I going to get my degree? When can I walk down the line? Because everybody is anxious for that moment. Everyone is anxious to get there. And then we hear the words, well, college is the best days of your life because life be life, correct? So I like to call it moments and days of how this quote lands on me. There are moments that are big in our lives when our children's graduation, going to a wedding, being part of the wedding even. There are days when we are waiting, and in that waiting period, we are doing our grind. In that waiting period, we are taking our small steps to make it happen to reach our goal. It's an interesting fact that you mentioned Vincent van Gogh as the author of this quote. I want to point out and celebrate our other visual artists, people like Jacob Lawrence, Faith Ringgold, Kehinde Wiley, Bisa Butler, a fellow Bison, and Janet Taylor Pickett, who took the woman in the blue dress and she made it come alive by having African American students to create art, to base it on their cultural perspective. So she used the dress as a template, and then the dress is filled with images that come from our African American culture. So the small steps include acknowledging, affirming our identity at a time when everyone else will say no. And to tie it into one more cultural event in our society, when we think about civil rights and all of the marches that went forth, we need to know our identity. And that doesn't happen in a march. That happens in the day-by-day affirmation of who you are. So I will close with this, that it is in doing the small things that are transformative. They transform you because you learn, you grow, you figure out something about yourself that was never there before. And so the question that I have for our listeners is, who are you when you have to do the mundane things? Who are you? Are you someone that perseveres? Are you someone that falls back? Are you someone who can support somebody else when you see them faltering and therefore hold them up? Or are you somebody who stands on the sideline and watches? Who are we when mundane things happen is the key to making a great thing happen collectively. That is how the quote landed on me.
I'm glad that you prefaced it the way that you did. Um, every great thing comes with more questions than answers. And to ask who are we is a question that we all have to answer. And Christopher James, celebrated military personnel, we thank you for your service, and I will do this 100 times over. I grew up in a military family, especially we take our veterans for granted, and without the sacrifice of many people, Buffalo soldiers and everyone else, the freedom that we so enjoy, we need to remember there were great sacrifices for us to have this platform that we have right now for freedom. And we cannot erase fact, because what happens when you do that, you create something that has no substance or foundation. And without a strong foundation, the first storm will blow away any dream or any aspiration that you may have. So Christopher James, I'm going to ask Otis to deliver the quote one more time and tell me how it lands on you.
And the quote, great things are done by a series of small things brought together.
You know, every time we do this, every time we come together, I have in my mind exactly what I'm going to say, exactly what I'm going to cover, exactly what I'm going to bring to light. And then, of course, I'm not saying put me in the front, but Kevin likes to put me in the middle or in the back. And I hear all these great ideas. And, well, I was going to say that, but I guess I can't. But what normally happens is I just gradually slow back down to my initial thought. And in this case, it's fairly simple. It's kind of basic. But before I get into that, Anne Marie said something that also kicked over a little mind stone in my head about graduation, about working towards a time and place where you can finally say, I got it, I succeeded, I've won. And I can think of 3 places where I've done that. One, of course, is in college, waiting for that day where I can actually walk across the stage. I've got my diploma, I'm all that. I'm wearing a little funny hat. And the journey was a lot more than the prize. The second event was when I got married. I pursued my wife for a reasonable time. We had changes in our schedules that happened that we had no control over. But I will say that moment of finally being one or being married, it had something that the previous times didn't have. I was excited about the moment, but my prospect of the future was slightly different. It wasn't, I got this degree and I can go out and get a job. It was, I'm finally connected, I'm finally whole. Now I can relax. And I've done that for over 50 years. The other incident, the third incident, was basic training or boot camp. It was a grueling 7 or 8 weeks, I can't recall now. But every ounce of my being was focused at finishing. Let's finish boot camp. Let's make this craziness stop. And I can recall how grateful and how happy I was to complete basic training. I was sitting there getting all dressed for my the graduation march, and then it didn't hit me. You know what? I just finished 8 weeks. All right. I have a 6-year enlistment. What the hell am I thinking? This isn't over. This is just starting. And it took away all the emotion I had for the graduation. When I looked ahead, I said, "Oh my God, this is 6 years is nothing when you come, you know." But anyway, I wound up doing 26 years, but which is a different story. But that sort of was a little, like I said, the little mind stone that kicked in my head on what Anne Marie was talking about graduation. But anyway, I digress. This particular quote struck me in a very basic place. I saw those small things as small steps. And I'm a runner, always have been. I can recall as a child closing my eyes and just running as hard as I can, and then realizing, boy, is there a stupider thing to do? But I loved it. I loved running. I came in the service, continued my running. And there was one incident in Florida about 20 years ago now. They placed me in charge of the, I was in the security detail, and there were a lot of senior people, and they had a lot of great, positions, seats, if you want to call it that. We had a commander, an assistant commander, and a few other real nice positions. Mine was the training commander. I was the battalion training commander. And it sounds, really great, really grand. That's the position that they give the junior guy who they really can't turn away and say, well, here, you just like sit over there. They give you a title, which meant at the time, nothing. You are the training battalion. Nobody likes training, so you're the training commander. But the one aspect of that job that I did enjoy was I was also in charge of physical fitness for the entire battalion. Now, the battalion consists of about 86 senior enlisted people who made up the security force at the station that I was at. Physical fitness was important, but nobody wanted to do it. I mean, like we had requirements that we had to run 1.5 miles in about 15 minutes. And you do that, you're good. Some folks did it in 10 minutes, but we were rare. Nobody enjoyed physical fitness. So that's what they stick me with. And I had, I guess the first day, maybe 30 people show up. And I said, we're going to warm up and we're going to run a mile and a half. And I remember saying many times, don't think of it as a mile and a half. Look down, check your feet. Don't stumble over a rock, but do it step by step. Just watch your feet move in a nice, controlled manner. And then every now and then look up and see where you are, but see this run as a step-by-step progress to the end, and you'll be amazed. So that was my first day. Like I said, I had 30 people the first day. The second day I had maybe 20. And I'm saying, guys, go get your buddies, get them back out here. We need to do this. This is a requirement. You need to have this physical fitness aspect in your training. So we gradually got back up to about 30, maybe 35 people. And I kept saying to them, don't look at the finish line. You know it's out there, but just keep your gaze a little shorter. Just watch your feet. Some people decided that instead of watching their feet, they'll watch the person in front of them. And because we had a co-ed detachment, we would place the shorter leg people up front so we wouldn't run off and leave them. So oftentimes that meant all the females were in the front of our battalion and the guys were in the back. And we had to make a few comments on watch your feet, not the butt of the person in front of you. But the idea was we would run just one step at a time. But of course, training is training. We had to make that, get to a goal. And our goal set by the battalion commander was 5 miles a day. Now we worked from 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3, and then we made a major step from 3 to 5. But it was done in a way that absolutely impressed me. I almost cried. Here's how it went. We had been at it for about maybe 9 months, and we had slowly graduated from 1.5 miles to 3 miles. And like I said, my team kind of fluctuated between 35 and 40. One morning at our running time, my team had swollen to about 42, 45 people. And I said, okay, let's go do our 3 miles. And the different squad commanders came over and said, hey, what if we tried 5 miles today, Senior Chief? I said, hey, I'm good, because what would normally happens, once we finish their run, I would do my final 2 miles, 3 miles, whatever. I'd get my 5 miles a day. So they would say, let's do 5 today. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is going to be a lot of puking, but what the hell, let's do it. We changed our course just slightly. We went through what was called the Marine path that we normally didn't take. We're sailors. But it was difficult. I'll admit it. It was difficult. We had some guys who slowed down. We had to adjust our pace for them, but we finished. But here's what really surprised me. I brought these guys in, or I reeled them in on the idea of one step at a time. Just look down at your feet, watch your feet go. When you look up, you'll be surprised you've done your 1.5 miles, your 2 miles, 3 miles, whatever. But what really surprised me was at about the second week, my crowd had shrunk down to about 20 people. And they were dedicated. They weren't all athletes, but they were dedicated. They wanted to get this thing done. By the time we finished, about 1.5 years into the program, I was now up to 40 people. And these guys thought nothing more important than doing that 5 miles a day. So Gil just said, wrap it up. To wrap it all up, my idea of small steps was more of a small things, taking those 20 to 30 to 40 people, bring them all together and making them one cohesive team that not only could see 5 miles as being nothing, but seeing 5 miles as a group, the most significant things of their life at that moment. Now, like I said, I had maybe 40 people a mixed group. I think we may have had 16 females, and the rest were all male. But no, super athletes, no monstrous guys. They got together and they did their job. They, I guess, in a report sense, they increased their fitness, which is my job. But they all came together. I mean, we had 20 guys, 30 guys, 40 people who all felt part of a team. And to them, when they said, to heck with 3, let's do 5 miles today, man, I was in tears because I had put together a team. I'd been part of a team that were willing to do that big a challenge and didn't even see it as a challenge. Let's go out there and do this. And that's my, bringing small things together. And
Right. All right. We appreciate your share. I've never seen I never seen Gilda smile more. Let's say wrap it up. Hey Chris, we're gonna show you how to do this. We're gonna let Gilda give us the share on the quote. Gilda, how's this quote land on you?
I call it baby steps. Okay. Take small baby steps. And small actions add up to great accomplishment. That's what I figure.
See?
I said, because Chris said it all and everyone else did.
Yeah, it's amazing. Chris, we're going to let you go early from now on so we can do a 45-minute show. So, with that said, thank you for your share. The hard part about doing this, and Chris, I'll address that, is that, I don't know how Otis feels, but I know how I feel, is that following any other people on here. I mean, Adina took the conversation of bringing a life into the world to one way. We talked about Victoria doing journaling. We talked about Anne Marie doing one step at a time. We talked about putting cocoa into a basket and filling it. We talked about, our parents, playing golf and finding your own lane. We talked about how all these quotes originated from the Bible with Dr. Breakthrough, as well as Curtis with his background of the Grand Canyon. I always thought when I see pictures like that and know that people have climbed to the peak of that, I always ask why. And the question remains is why not? When I see, people like Mazad starting a business and reaching people all the way across the other side of the world. And then I could only say getting prepared, for what's yet to come when Inez gives her share. So, this is the most amazing thing about this. So, Larnez, if you don't mind, how does this quote land on you?
Well, blissful rising to everyone. Grateful to be here this morning. So I believe that people think greatness just happens, that one day you just wake up successful, respected, and killing the game. But that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Excuse me. See, we live in a microwave ass society where everybody wants to be popping overnight. You want to see success stories without the struggle, the clout without the consistency, and the rewards without the rep. But Vincent was onto something, because greatness isn't one big move. It's a series of small moves stacked, compounded, and consistent. You don't just become a dope artist, you sketch every damn day. You don't just become a boss, you handle your ish on days you want to quit. You don't build an empire, you lay brick after brick, even when nobody's clapping for you. But you don't want to hear that, because that means showing up when it's inconvenient. That means doing the work when you're tired. That means sticking with it when it's not cute, fun, or exciting. If you look at anybody you admire, I promise you, you do not see the struggle. You do not see the late nights, the broke moments, the rejections, the failures. You don't see them doubting themselves, crying in the car, wondering if it's all worth it. because greatness is built in the trenches. It's built in the messy, lonely, unfiltered moments. It's in the I don't feel like it, but I'm going to do it anyway moves. It's in the nobody sees me grinding, but I know my time is coming mindset. So if you're sitting there waiting for your big break, thinking some magical moment is going to make you great, you're already behind. The moment is now. The work is today. And one day you will finally make it and you'll realize it wasn't one thing. It was everything and all of nothing at all that got you there. And that's how this hit me.
Wow. It landed in a safe space. Christopher, aren't you so glad you didn't have to follow on this?
Man, but I love hearing it. I love hearing what she has to say.
It has been an amazing morning, Sunday morning on Motivational Sundays with Kevin and friends. I love my friends. I love each and every last one of you. My new co-host, you're always welcome to come back. And I guess it's my time to give my share. So I'm going to give you the quote again. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Now, every big
Otis
idea.
sorry, Kevin. Did Otis did his?
You don't interrupt. I'm kind of doing the show. I got it. All right. I kind of knew that ahead of time. So
Sorry about that.
that's okay. We're trying not to let everyone know the production issues that we're having. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and, when I talk about my quote and my share, I'm going to follow Otis. Otis, how does this quote land on you? And he's talking, and we got to get him to unmute real quick, right? Because I know he's saying
Okay,
something.
there we go.
Oh,
Just taking everything in stride. It's just like even in my personal life, you're learning something day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. When I got into the workforce, I was a cashier at McDonald's, was taught customer service, got involved in management, got involved in training other people, then moving into parking, using some of those same skills, cashier, became a supervisor, became a night manager, got involved in network marketing to know how to move products and different ideas, got involved in budgeting, and then advanced customer service, where I was training even the management staff at the World Trade Center, which became the Seaport Hotel. And then because of the marketing, when I took over another location, getting out and into the community and other businesses, in my second year at that facility, we beat budget by $300,000. So it's like piece by piece, but learning all the different things from day one that I got involved in business. And that's how it landed on me.
and thank you for everyone that's has shared their perception and interpretation of Vincent van Gogh's quote. Great things are done by a series of small things that are brought together. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm going to say anything any wiser than anyone else has said on here. It's going to make a bigger impact. But I know, just like Christopher, I make my notes, and I realize that Tar said this. I realize that Adina said this. I realize that Dr. Breakthrough, I'm probably the only person who's not going through. I'm making notes as Dr. Breakthrough does his share, because I'm being educated. I'm also learning, with Victoria, Lois, Curtis, and even Mazan does it. And then I just sit back and enjoy the ride when Larnez and Gilda give their share. So every big idea starts off first as a very small idea. It's a concept in your head. And then we basically, like Vincent van Gogh, if you've never created anything, and when you talk about the small strokes he made, Vincent van Gogh also covered up a lot of other artwork that he painted over because it was short on canvas, but it never stopped him from creating, because that in his mind, he had these things that he had to bring into life. He was an amazing artist, and he understood the importance of dedication and patience when it came to him creating this art. Each idea is his contribution of something that seems so simple that, like your dress, Mazan, became extraordinary. When you focus on the small things and you work hard on them each and every day, as so many of us has expressed, minutes turn into hours, hours turn into days, days turn into months, and years become part of your story. Over time, something extraordinary will happen, just like this show that we brought all these people together. So I say to everyone on here, dream big. Okay. Start with one small idea at a time. Chase your dream and just dream big. And that's how this quote landed on me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in. And I want you to remember that if you want to follow us, go to RMK Productions and Network on YouTube. If you want to subscribe or leave it totally up to you. There's a lot of stuff on there. Anne-Marie's got a podcast that she's killing it on there. And I will tell you, when you talked about small ideas and I started my podcast, she has been kicking my butt of every single number. So, and that's one of those things that shows you how important it is to collaborate and surround yourself with good people. So what I say to you, to grow, you must make some mistakes. To be confident, you must address your anxieties. And I, like Victoria said, find your truth. To forgive yourself, you must hold yourself accountable. Learn, you must unlearn some stuff. And to exist, you have to show up as more, and then keep your dream alive. My grandfather always said, when you get to a place in life that you can help someone, he says, your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one. And with that said, we what?
Fade to black.
Ladies and
Dr.
gentlemen.
Breakthrough.
And be sure you come back.
That's
All
right.
And we'll see you all next week with another wonderful quote. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're out. Fading to black.